compensation amount given to them. A lot in detail, along with the former executive official of Air India joining us exclusive. And of course, we have in our day-to-night top story the brutal custodial torture that's yet again been exposed. In fact, the man who died in custody, his post-mortem reports are out showing some brutal wounds and injuries. At this point, a lot of questions raised against the DMK government a year ahead of their elections. And finally, we're going to talk a little about top star Vikrant Massey, who's decided to leave the column blank where it asks for religion of his child. He says, my child is and should be free to choose his religion. I'm not going to force or impose a religion on him. A lot more on that, as always, the headlines. India's Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Rahul Singh, revealed that China backed Pakistan during Operation Sindoor, provided real-time intel and weapon. He's warned that India must boost air defense, stay at the top of escalation ladder in future conflicts. 250 illegal Bangladeshi nationals deported from Gujarat to Dhaka in a massive crackdown. IAF aircraft used under heavy security now, over 1,200 identified and removed in the last 2 months. Nipah virus resurfaces in Kerala. 2 cases detected in Kozhikode and Malappuram. 18-year-old girl dies of acute encephalitis. NIV confirms infection in a 38-year-old woman. "43 dead, 37 missing in Himachal Pradesh as cloud bursts, flash floods and landslides wreak havoc. Mandi worst hit with 17 killed, massive search operations underway, 31 people still missing. And actor Vijay named TDK's CM face for 2026. Tamil Nadu polls, party rules out alliance with DMK or BJP. TDK passes key resolutions, slams Amit Shah's remarks on English as attack on Tamil policy. Allahabad High Court rejects a plea to rename Shahi Eidgah Mosque as disputed structure. In Mathura case, the court dismisses petition filed during hearing of Krishna Janmabhoomi Eidgah dispute suits. India-Bangladesh white ball series called off amid sore ties between the two countries. 3 ODIs and 3 T20s have been postponed. Bangladesh Cricket Board calls off India series for now, keeps a future window open though. And Russia becomes the first to recognize Taliban government, accepts ambassador's credentials in Kabul. Moscow calls Taliban ally against ISIS. Russia plans to use Afghanistan as gas transit hub despite global non-negotiation. A lot of unofficial reports coming to fore that Taliban may just help Russia against their war with Ukraine. Sub-Lieutenant Astha Punya, in fact, becomes the first woman fighter pilot in Indian Navy, bagging wings of gold. Historic moment indeed for naval aviation and Nari Shakti. All right, let me take you through our top story here. It's been over 22 days now since the Air India flight 171 went down. 260 lives were lost. Tragedy that really shook the nation and the world. Grief is turning into outrage for many families of the Air India crash victims. More than 40 families of the victims now saying that they are being pressurized by Air India. They're not just grieving at this point, they're facing immense pressure by Air India, who's asking them allegedly to sign off multiple forms, forcing them to declare financial dependence on the deceased, basically to prove if they're eligible for compensation or not. Now, the families claim, some of the aggrieved families, that this is insulting, downright insulting and painful. Now, that's particularly according to a UK-based law firm, Stewart's, who've come up with this argument, who's representing some of these families. They say that Air India's demands are legally loaded and coercive. And that's, of course, not the only firm, Indian firms as well, particularly Nanavati and Nanavati, has also teamed up with two major US legal giants, Clifford Law Offices and Crindler, to build a case against Air India. Most importantly, case also has Boeing as a party here and a few others. Air India, for its part, has denied these allegations. It says the questionnaire in question was only meant to confirm next of kin status, but not to determine dependency or to show any kind of guilt. They claim that 47 families have already received their interim payment and other 55 are in process. What about accountability though? Well, it's been nearly a month and clearly no one really knows what really brought the plane down. Investigators are now looking at a possible sabotage angle as well, including fuel tampering and security breach. The Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Muralidhar Mohol, has said sabotage is a serious line of inquiry. They are looking into those concerns as well. Families, of course, now desperately waiting for answers. But while they grieve, they're also being loaded with paperwork. To give us a little more clarity on what's really happening, how to ease the pain of the multiple families while they already are grieving their loved ones. Here they've burdened with paperwork, but airlines refusing such claims. A little more in depth into how this case could be better handled, if at all. Captain Sanjay Karve, former accountable manager, aviation, Government of Maharashtra. Professor Bijan Mishra, consumer policy expert. Thank you both of you for joining us, sir. I'd start with Captain Karve. Sir, give us your take on how best can an airline handle a situation like this. Families are going to be upset, and clearly so they are. But a little more delicately, if the airline can handle this, to ask for families to prove their financial dependency on the victim, only then will they be eligible to be paid a compensation. How does this work in your experience?
No, Air India has to be slightly more sympathetic and humane in their approach when dealing with this. The Montreal Convention very clearly lays down a base figure of 161,000 special drawing rights, which is approximately 200,000 US dollars. And it also gives an immediate compensation, which is to be paid within 15 days, which is approximately 2 lakh Indian rupees. Now, in a case like this, if Air India is going to start asking n number of questions as to who is the legitimate here, why, how, in an Indian society, you would have brothers, sisters, wives. There is no end to it. Whosoever is the next of kin as legally accepted by the Indian system. We are flying in India. The accident has taken place in India. The aircraft has got airborne in India. It's an Indian registered aircraft flown by Indian crew. I really find no reason why Air India should delay it beyond the normal stipulated time. And it had gone to town. If you remember, in the first 2 days, they declared an immediate compensation of 1 crore, if I remember correctly. And they said that we are also forming a trust. So was this just merely a PR exercise, or have they actually done? But it appears that it was more of, a PR exercise for the media and for the people. But on ground, it doesn't seem to have percolated, which is really a sad thing to happen.
Now, what's the norm really like? If you could give me a sense on what the norm really says. If at all the airline only wants to verify kinship here, then why were they worded in such a way where they're asking financial dependency? If our consumer policy expert, Mr. Bijan Mishra, could give us his take on that. If it is just about asking if you are blood related or basically your next of kin, then why that wording there of financial dependency?
Nabila, we must appreciate that Tatas are considered a global brand which are extremely ethical, and they will never do something which is unethical. So the first thing is there has to be a due diligence conducted in a very transparent and accountable manner to ensure that the money goes to the right people who are related to the victims, which is a must, which has to be followed. And as per norm, we have to share certain information which are not very personal in nature, but needs to be given in terms of ascertaining the rightful claimants for this compensation. See, Tatas have immediately said that they're going to give 1 crore and also have a trust which will be of 500 crores to take care of the next of kin and other eventualities of the victim's family. Now, what we need to understand is there is a kind of a, I feel, I mean, this is my personal view, that the legal team are trying to malign the image of our country as one of the leading brands and are not sensitive to make sure that they come forward with enough evidences to say what they have now come in public domain to say. You know, if a questionnaire is being given, it is not mandatory that we need to fill all the information in the questionnaire. We will only fill, and as a consumer, we have the right
Asking
to
you,
decide.
if there is a wording that suggests financial dependency, who's today financially dependent on their family members? Mostly all of them are independent. How do you prove financial dependency? Give us a take on that. How do you prove that
Very
you
simple.
are financially dependent on the person who died?
Very simple. You know, even though I am an earning member in the family, I may be contributing in terms of the total holistic income of the family. And the family also is dependent on a collective income which comes into the family. So if supposing one victim passes away due to accident, then naturally that input which is supposed to come to the family in the rightful manner is kind of denied. And in order to have that compensation claim, in my view, there has to be a very holistic approach to understand and calculate that compensation. Now, my contention is when Tata's announced this, Air India announced this compensation, they did not put any precondition. So what we need to understand is that what are those conditions which they are applying, which only would justify that the money goes to the rightful claimants of the family. And there is no harm in asking certain questions in terms of justifying the rightfulness of the claimants. So in my view, the compensation has to be given, which has been announced. That is number one. Number two, there has to be some kind of an open, transparent criteria made public through engaging prominent people from the community to monitor this. So the Tatas also have to ensure that there is a social audit, and they are known for that. They should adopt a social audit in terms of bringing in transparency to ensure that the money is given to the rightful claimants. And that is where the process has to be done in such a manner that there is no interference. First, we need to watch what they do prior to we
All
jumping
right. So
in.
you're saying some of the legal eagles are trying to swindle or squeeze the Tatas. That's in your view, as they're
Yes.
fighting for the aggrieved families. You claim that this could be a way to extract more money. But Professor, in fact, Captain Sanjay, if you can come in on this, what's the international practice? How common is this practice across the globe in the aviation industry, especially in the scale of this kind of crash?
In a scale of this crash, ICAO figure which I gave you, they have very clearly specified that it is a baseline figure and it does not take into account the financial liabilities or responsibilities of the individual who has died. It is a baseline figure. It also specifies that the airline is free to give anything above this figure if the situation such demands or warrants. Now, what I feel in this particular case, after the accident, surprisingly and unlike the Tata Group, they have been very poor in communicating as to what is happening to the people in general. They have become tight-lipped, close-lipped. So people in general really don't know as to what is happening. You know, what you read in newspapers is all speculations. What you hear from third party or fourth party source. Ideally speaking, Tata should have nominated someone who would talk to people every alternate day and say, look, this is what is happening. This is where we stand. This is what we want. None of this is happening. I am not saying they are not doing the job, but people need to know. The affected families need to know as to what is happening. All over the world, that is the process. That is the procedure. It is open. It is not held under closed doors. Whereas here, today, we really don't know as to what is the process that is going on. We hear that n number of forms are being asked to fill up. Your financial dependency is being asked to prove. ICAO doesn't ask for that. So the reasons have to be given. Tatas need to be opened. This is much against the group ethos.
No, and these families I hear are saying that they are being forced to declare. These forceful declaration is what is basically making it worse. Professor?
No, I think there is a contradiction already come in the public domain where Tatas have refuted those charges.
Well, Tatas have refuted those charges, but we don't know what we've got to go by the account of the aggrieved families, and it's not one family claiming it, multiple families have. And there are 241 people have died in that crash. Only 40 families have received compensation. It's been over 22 days.
Abhila, we must appreciate there has to be a due diligence. There is a process. The money can't go to the wrongful people. We have to ensure that money must go to the victims' families. We have to understand that is a process where we have to create evidences which will be held in the court of law, as evidence. Otherwise, tomorrow some claimant will come and start claiming that money that you did not give it to me, who is the rightful owner. So you see, Abhila, we have to appreciate that it is too early to give a comment, and in my view, it is my personal view, Tatas are in regular touch with the victims. They are being guided in the rightful manner, and they are being told to fill the forms in the manner they need it. And if they have any issue, they should go to the Tatas directly and talk to them. They are open for conversation and communication. So I do not believe that Tatas will create a barrier in terms of communication with the victims. They would definitely be going out of their way. I remember 1989 incident of fire in Jamshedpur in Tata Steel, how they handled the victims, how beautifully they are today also handling those families, who were victims of that fire in 1989, where so many people became victim of that fire. So they have a, very good track record. Please do not malign their image right now.
We agree with what you're saying, but some of the claims are really sad. Like Captain said, you've got to show empathy. And here, just because you've announced compensation doesn't mean that you make them sign those forms in sweltering conditions, inhumane treatment, not explaining to them the legal terminology of what's written on the forms, not having conversations with them, not giving legal aid to those families. So this is, in a way, basically washing their hands off, saying, okay, now we've announced compensation, responsibility is on you now to prove whether you are eligible to take that compensation. That's not fair. This case should be handled with a lot more care, don't you think, Professor?
No, I fully agree with you. You see, you didn't hear me. I clearly mentioned that there has to be a public figure, known person of repute to be brought in, like a retired Chief Justice.
Yeah, so they have been given no legal aid. They have not been explained the terminologies of what is written on the forms.
The process is open. You see, the legal aid you need only when there is a dispute.
Sir, there is no dispute. Someone should be conveying the legal terminology of what's written on the form, and I can't expect everyone there, families of those victims, to be educated enough to know what financial dependency means.
You see, in simple language, I'm saying to your viewers, and I hope the victims are listening to me, please fill only that information which you can comprehend and understand. Do not get into technicalities, and give the form in the manner you feel you can fill it up comfortably without any assistance. And in case, if the Tatas want more information, then I'm sure they will seek it from you in a competent, transparent manner. Then they would guide you how to fill up those information, rather than you rushing to a lawyer or rushing to a legal counsel to protect you or to, bring in a legal kind of a dispute. At this point of time, I don't see any reason why anybody should be seeking any legal help, because I feel that the victims have the full right to fill the form in the manner they desire, in the manner they feel appropriate, in the manner they feel there is no coercion in terms of information, in the manner they feel that it is very personal and I don't want to share. They are free to keep those places blank and submit. Let Tatas decide after that how to help them, how to guide them, how to ensure that they are able to get the legitimacy of the claim. We always have to understand the legitimacy of the claim, because at the end of the day, the claim money cannot go to wrong people. It has to go to the rightful.
But that's, that we understand, but that should still be secondary concern. The primary concern for the airline should be to treat the families with respect and empathy, because they're the most vulnerable at this point. They should have streamlined the process. And like you rightly said, a person to mediate the whole thing, which is exactly what the families say has not been there. And therefore, in your expertise as a consumer policy expert, can they sue the airline for what they're doing? They're basically taking the victims' families for a ride.
You see,
and we don't even know if we don't even know yet, sir. We don't even know yet if the crash happened because of the airline's negligence. We don't even know yet.
That is exactly what I'm trying to tell you. That I don't think your viewers or the victims should be made to rush into litigation. It will be wrong. It will delay the process. It will give an excuse for delaying the process. I would like the victims to get compensation of 1 crore as early as possible. I would like to see that 500 crore trust fund starts functioning as early as possible.
Right.
So there should be more conversation on TV channels like yours on this account. And in my view, I am sure Tatas would be listening to this conversation and they are taking appropriate steps. And they would take appropriate steps.
I have with me, sir, for the moment, let me also introduce Jitendra Bhargava, who is a former executive director with Air India. He's an author himself of The Descent of Air India, a man with all the expertise with him. Thank you very much, Jitendra, for joining us. Your take on families aggrieved that they're being treated with inhumane conditions, asked to sit in sweltering heat, fill in forms where they do not understand terminology, many of them not even given water, no legal aid for them to actually take help and fill those forms. They don't know what to fill. Air India is not helping. Staff is saying you'll have to manage these the form filling process. This is basically showing zero empathy, while there's still speculation that the fault could be on Air India very well. We're waiting for the investigation to come out and hopefully give Air India a clean sheet, but we still don't know if Air India is responsible for this crash or not. But they are already...
Okay, let me ask a straight question. If you are an Air India official and a victim, some relative of a victim had come to you, will you start paying that person without doing due diligence, whether there could be other claimant for this money, or they were related, there were other relations?
What I would do,
there is a legal process to be followed.
What I would do though, I would have a legal hand in place, not one, multiple of them. And if I am a company as rich as Air India, I will have I'll have multiple legal officials or a team of legal experts to help these families fill those forms, handhold them. I will ensure that they're handheld to fill those forms.
Look,
I will ensure that they're explained what the terminology is. So you asked me a question. You asked me a question.
Let me explain. How do you know that system is not in place?
The families, I will go by the testimony of the families. Most definitely.
Hold it. No, allow me to speak.
Sir, you asked me a question. You're not giving me a chance to speak.
I'm not participating in your
Go
program.
on, sir. Please go on. Please go on. Please speak.
You have come up to a certain point and you are just wanting to press that idea.
Sir, you asked me a question. I responded to you.
I apologize if you're upset.
I apologize if you're upset.
Your question. I'm asking you a straightforward thing here for the program. Air India is obliged to pay compensation as per international law. They can't wish it away, do what they may. Number one. Number two, the forms have to be filled up, because you have to establish the right entitlement of a person. Everybody, there can be 5 family members, 6 family members. You can't pay money to one compensation. And you say, why can't Air India have legal people to help them? How can we do it? If you will make an accusation on Air India that Air India lawyers were writing what they wanted to write. It is given to them, the forms have been given. They can get the guidance from the family. They're not uneducated people. And they said, oh, we don't understand.
A lot of them are.
Oh, please get those illiterate people if you can get them. Don't make it as a thing. If there are 5 people, 7 people, they can seek assistance. But have they sought assistance?
So basically, you're leaving it to the families of the deceased to seek assistance from their own circles, run around within their circles, beg in their vulnerable state. In their vulnerable state, they're supposed to be begging the others, saying, please explain to me what this form entails.
Again, you are coming to it. Who's begging? Their compensation is due. The compensation has to be paid after.
No, they've got to
certain-
beg other people outside to ask what does the form really hold.
Let's have a program tomorrow. Get 5 illiterate passengers on your program that they do not understand English, they cannot fill up forms. They cannot understand Gujarati, they cannot fill up the form. Get those things going.
So you're coming from a very elitist stand.
No. I'm sorry.
I beg to
I am
differ.
making it very clear. Let me 1, 2, 3 point of it. Compensation is going to be given, number one. The charge that you're making the form fill up and ask your employer and your financial thing because Air India wants to slash compensation. The moot point in the charge that they made. Had this been the thing, let's not forget, Air India's compensation is only one part of it. Tatas have announced a compensation of 1 crore per victim. They have announced a corpus of 500 crores to be able to assess them on a sustainable basis. They are not obliged to put this 500 crores or pay them 1 crore rupees. It is over and above the compensation that Air India is going to be paying. Now, where is the issue that we are talking about?
So you almost sounded like as if Air India is doing a favor over and above compensation.
Air India is not doing a favor, but not are these people. You are again coming to a conclusion on it. If you are in a position, I'm again asking, there are 4 claimants from a family. How will you determine the right claimant, or if there are more than 4 claimants also? Give me an answer to this simple, specific question.
I'm not an aviation expert, but I will bring in.
No,
Captain
you don't
Sanjay.
need to be an aviation expert.
I will
This
bring
is
in Captain
legality.
Sanjay maybe to give his opinion on that. Captain Sanjay, would you want to respond to that?
Point which is being brought out here is no one is questioning that due diligence needs to be made. You brought a point that anyone who is traveling by an aircraft, it belongs to the elite group. You have been chairman, CMD or executive director of the Air India. If you look at the Air India ticketing form, it says emergency contact number. I am sure if you log on to the site today, 90% of the passengers do not fill up that emergency contact number, or they give their own number in that emergency contact number. So let us not get into educated or uneducated. What we are merely trying to say is Air India needs to be open and tell people, look, these are the legal requirements. We need to verify who are the rightful heirs. And that is why this delay is taking place. Instead of going into all this, they just have to be open and say, look, we are duty bound to pay you, which is roughly 1.8 CR as per ICAO. And ICAO does not insist on financial dependency. But we require to prove, or you require to prove to us that you are related, and we need to be sure that there are no other claimants. So there are no issues for you also, like that particular individual who's got money, he would also be running around in courts tomorrow. So, but Air India needs to go public and let people know, look, this is the reason why the thing is getting delayed. Like the emergency payment, sir, you have been the boss of Air India. ICAO says that emergency payment needs to be done within 15 days, which is roughly 2 lakhs. But what I hear is only about 45
they
passengers
refused any
have been
advance compensation.
Yeah. So Air India needs to tell people, look, this is the delay. We need to prove who is the rightful heir. Now today people don't know. It is just a bunch of forms. So everyone thinks, look, why am I being given so much of forms? Are you questioning my legality? No one is questioning it. We fully understand that due diligence is required, but this needs to be explained to people. We may talk of 85% literacy, 90% literacy. Sir, in India, literacy is passing an examination, not understanding things.
I'm not even going to begin to talk about the kind of families who are involved here. Crew members, for example, 2 crew members, Manipur, first girl in their family itself to be working, those are the kind of families we're talking about. Visuals are on our screens, I don't need to explain. Professor Bijon, if you would want to respond to what Jitendra Bhargava had to say.
No, you see, I'm right from the beginning, Abhila, you would have observed what I'm saying is there has to be a proper, transparent process. That is number one. Number two, the communication has to be in the language which people understand. Number three, there has to be a neutral person brought in, a person of repute from the community who should be allowed to monitor in terms of what is going on and how communications are being established between the victim's family and others. Because I again read that the Tatas are going ahead to ensure that the funeral takes place properly, all their comforts are being taken care in terms of their hotel stay, transportation, and everything. Now, my contention is when Tatas are going ahead to do so much of gesture in terms of social commitment, I mean, they would never, ever think that they will put any family under any kind of an harassment. Where they will compel and coerce people to give information which they are not comfortable to give. They will never ask for such information. I'm sure about that. But at the same time, the victims' families must understand that there is a due diligence which needs to be done in terms of authentication and creating evidences of rightful owners to get the legitimate compensation. So we all have to understand that there is a process, there is a kind of a system in place, and I am sure Tatas are following it. Let's not rush into a litigation. That will be very wrong on our part, because if we rush into litigation, it will delay the compensation to be given to the victims. And I with my 40 plus years of experience in the compensation field on behalf of the customers, I feel that litigation is the last post. Everything has to be done through negotiation and mediation. There should not be any element of litigation.
I have one quick question though, Mr. Jitendra Bhargava, one question on the compensation of, a lot of questions being asked for the number of deaths that have happened on the ground. There were 20 college students who died at the BJ Medical Institute. Will they and their families also be entitled to compensation?
Yes, Tatas have made it abundantly clear on it that they are also eligible for the 1 crore compensation that they have. They will do it. And for the benefit, Air India's office at Taj Skyline in Ahmedabad is open for people to go, families to go, contact them. They have emailed people who are back in London, the family members can approach Air India through email, and they will get an answer irrespective of language you are talking about. Language is not an issue. They can contact the London office of Air India, deal with it, the matter kind of a thing. But to say the money could be paid without carrying out due diligence, as my co-panelists have very rightly also said, there is a system to be followed and system to be done. We are all very, very sad at this unfortunate accident. Our heart goes out to the families. But when it comes to due diligence, they will have to conform to it. We can't make an issue and thing. And because, as I said earlier, Air India is obliged to pay compensation under international conventions. They can't wish it away.
No, I know they can't wish it away, but there's a process to be done. But well, we've, I think, explored most of it here.
Okay, let me also add here. Yeah. 47 people have already been given advance compensation.
Right, but there are nearly 200
others.
Nearly 200 families
have been verified and they've done it.
But nearly 200 families haven't yet got it. They've got to expedite, get more force, get more people, really pump up and amplify their team right now to aid the process. You can't be working with a lean force, just like the fate of the Air India flights, half of it is falling off. That can't be the process here while dealing with the crash.
Again, you're making this unconcocted information. Where is the aircraft falling down?
It's not. We all fly Air India. We know how well kept it is. We know how well kept Air India is.
Air pockets can exist anywhere. We make an aircraft fall up to a certain level. Don't just try and malign Air India for no rhyme or reason. I'm ashamed to be on your program.
I'm sad that you're not considering, I'm really sad, sir, that you're not considering the grievances of the family. It's not this is a grievance that's not come from one family. Multiple families have complained of an insulting approach, to get their rightful compensation. You can be very well defending Air India. We know your allegiance with Air India. You can defend. I'm doing my job. I'm speaking for the families who have spoken. I'm sorry, you cannot cast aspersions on my credibility. I'm speaking for the families who have spoken. I am speaking for the families who have spoken. Captain, you had something to say?
Yes. Like Professor pointed out, it is pointless going into litigation. It is going to delay the process. And the ICAO says the limit is 2 years for payment. So 2 years is a long time. Everyone would get their payment. What we are trying to say is, like when you go to vote for an election, the government puts in newspaper that please carry proof of identification, maybe your Aadhaar card, voter card, driving license. Once you show it at the entrance, your finger will be marked and only then you are permitted to vote. Air India could definitely inform, look, this is what is happening. We want to prove you are the next of kin. Please have these documents ready, or these are the things which are ready. It will facilitate and ease the process. So you give them those forms, but make it clear right in the beginning to everyone that this is what you are required to prove and this is a legal requirement. And it is not very difficult to do. This is what you are required to prove that you are the legal heir or you are related to the person who has died. It's a sad thing which has happened. But like it was pointed out, there has to be a communication which somehow seems to be lacking.
Final word as I wrap here, Professor Bijon.
Yeah, Abila, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I fully agree with you. It has to be prompt. It has to have efficiency in terms of compensation to be settled. It cannot be delayed. All the victims must get compensated as early as possible.
In time.
In time. I fully agree with you there. And there has to be a process brought in which will ensure promptness, which will bring in transparency. As I'm all the time telling you that it is no rocket science. It can be done by the Tatas. And I'm sure they would be listening to us tonight and they will bring in that promptness in their process to ensure that all the victims get covered as early as possible and to their satisfaction.
Really appreciate the two of you. Thank you very much for staying on. Sir Jitendra Bhargava had to leave, I suppose, prematurely. He probably didn't like the questions being asked, but I wouldn't still cast any aspersions on him. He has been a great officer with the Air India, a former executive director with the airline, so quite naturally will be in Air India's defense. But nonetheless, we are only having faith here, not having doubts. We're having faith that Tata and Air India collectively will ensure seamless process of compensation to these families. And that's what we pray for. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us.
Thank you.
A quick look at Prime Minister Modi in Trinidad. He's speaking in the parliament there. Let's hear him.
To build a modern India, from space to sports, startups to science, education to enterprise, aviation to armed forces. They are leading India to a new future in various domains. Like you, we have our women who rose from humble beginnings to become our president. Two years ago, the Indian Parliament took a historic step, which decided to ensure a 33% reservation for women in Parliament and state assemblies. This assurance that is the coming generations, more and more women will decide the destiny and direction of the nation. Women leaders are also thriving at the grassroots in India. Around 1.5 million elected women power local governor institutions. We are in an era of women-led development. This was also one of the important themes that we furthered during our G20 presidency. हम भारत में विमेन-लेड डेवलपमेंट का एक नया मॉडल विकसित कर रहे हैं। अपनी G20 प्रेसिडेंसी के दौरान भी इस मॉडल की सफलता को हमने पूरी दुनिया के सामने रखा है। Distinguished members, today India is the fastest growing major economy in the world. Every sector, every region, and every society is part of this growth story. India's growth is inclusive and people-centric. A recent report of the International Labour Organization notes that India's social security and welfare umbrella covers 950 million people. That is almost 1 billion people, which is a greater population than most countries in the world. Our vision for such inclusive growth does not stop at our borders. We see our development also as a responsibility towards others, and our priority will always be the global South. With the same spirit, we are deepening our relations with Trinidad and Tobago. Our trade will continue to grow. We will encourage our businesses to invest more in this country. Our development partnership will expand. Training capacity, building, and skill development will keep human development as its center. Health has been and will remain a key part of our partnership. Many Indian doctors and healthcare workers have been serving here with distinction. We are glad that you have decided to recognize Indian medical standards. This will ensure access to high quality, affordable medicine for all. We also welcome your decision to adopt the UPI digital payment system. It is a major step forward. UPI has revolutionized digital payments in India. Powered by the platform, India has become the nation with the highest number of real-time digital payments in the world. Today, in India, even the mango sellers have QR code. If you try to pay them in cash, they will ask you to use UPI because they don't have the change. We are also keen to collaborate on other digital innovations. As India develops AI tools to foster growth and development in the global South, Trinidad Tobago will be a priority nation for us. We will share our expertise in agriculture, horticulture, and food processing. Machinery from India will support your agro industry. And because development is about dignity, we will organize an artificial limb fitment camp and differently able citizens here. For us, there are no limits to our cooperation with you. We will always be guided by your needs and priorities. Friends, synergy between our nations holds immense promise. As a key player in the Caribbean and bridge to Latin America, Trinidad and Tobago has a great potential. I am sure that our ties will help us forge a stronger connection with the wider region, building On the momentum of the second India CARICOM Summit, we are eager to collaborate on initiatives that enhance trade and investment, build infrastructure and mobility, implement community development projects, and above all, support capacity building, training and skill development on a large scale. Friends, I also see our partnership in a larger global framework. The scale and speed of change in the world is unprecedented. There are fundamental shifts in the nature of politics and power. Free trade is under pressure. There are growing global divisions, disputes, and disparities. The world is faced with challenges of climate change, food, health, and energy security. Terrorism remains a pressing threat. Colonial rules of the past may have ended, but their shadows linger in new forms. There are new challenges in space and cyber security. Artificial intelligence is unlocking the new opportunities as well as risk. The old institutions are struggling to deliver peace and progress. At the same time, the global south is rising. They wish to see a new and fairer world order. When the United Nations turned 75, there was great hope across the developing world. A hope that long pending reforms would be realized, that their voices would finally be heard. But that hope has turned into disappointment. The voice of the developing world remains on the margins. India has always tried to bridge this gap. For India, Mahasagar, mutual and holistic advancement for society and growth across regions, is the guiding vision for the global south. Whenever we got the opportunity, we have given voice to the global south. During our G20 presidency, we brought the concerns of the global south to the center of global decision making. During the pandemic, while caring for our 1.4 billion people, India provided vaccine and medicines to over 150 countries. In times of disaster, we have responded swiftly with aid, relief, and solidarity. Our development partnerships are demand-driven, respectful, and without conditions. Distinguished members, it is time for us to work together to give the global south its rightful seat at the right table. To ensure climate justice so that the burden does not fall on those who have contributed the least to the climate crisis. We consider Trinidad and Tobago an important partner in this endeavor. Friends, our two countries may differ in size and geography, but we are deeply aligned in our values. We are proud democracies. We believe in dialogue, sovereignty, multilateralism, and human dignity. In these times of conflicts, we must remain true to those values. Terrorism is the enemy of humanity. This very Red House has itself witnessed the wounds of terror and the loss of innocent blood. We must stand united to deny terrorism any shelter or space. We thank the people and the government of this country for standing with us in our fight against terrorism. Friends, our forefathers struggled, sacrificed, and had dreams of better lives for future generations. Both India and Trinidad Tobago have come a long way on the journey to the future we have promised our people. But we still have a lot to do by ourselves and together. All of you, as members of the Parliament, have a vital role in shaping that future. From Ayodhya to Arima, from the Ghats of Ganga to the Gulf of Paria, may our bonds grow ever deeper and our dreams ever higher. With these thoughts, I thank you once again for this honor. As you say here, with grace and pride, respect due. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
गोल्डन का एक तेरे लिए मंगाओ मेरे नए म्यूजिक गॉगल्स मंगाओ क्या